Welcome to FA Cup Files, ESTD 1871, where football's oldest trophy tells its greatest stories. Step into history with FA Cup Files, a tribute to grit, glory, and the birth of the beautiful game. Since 1871, legends have been made. FA Cup Files brings you the stories time tried to forget.
Herbert Chapman, the 19th of January, 1878 to the 6th of January, 1934, was an English football player and manager. Though he had an undistinguished playing career, he went on to become one of the most influential and successful managers in the early 20th century, before his sudden death in 1934. He is regarded as one of the game's greatest innovators. As a player, Chapman played for a variety of clubs, at football league and non-league levels. His record was generally unremarkable as a player. He made fewer than 40 league appearances over the course of a decade and did not win any major honours. Instead, he found success as a manager, first at Northampton Town between 1908 and 1912, which he led to a Southern League title. This attracted the attention of larger clubs and he moved to Leeds City, where he started to improve the team's fortunes before the First World War intervened. After the war ended, City were implicated in an illegal payment scandal and were eventually disbanded. Chapman was initially banned from football but successfully appealed. He took over at Huddersfield Town, winning an FA Cup and 2 First Division titles in the period of 4 years. In 1925, Arsenal successfully tempted Chapman to join them, and he led the club to its first ever silverware by winning 1 FA Cup and 2 First Division titles. His work at Arsenal resulted in their becoming the dominant team of the 1930s. They won 5 league titles and 2 FA Cups in the decade before the suspension of football due to the outbreak of the Second World War, but he did not live to see the entirety of his team's success, dying suddenly from pneumonia in 1934, at the age of 55. He is credited with improving Arsenal. He introduced new tactics, the WM formation, which forms the core of most modern-day formations, and training techniques to the game and the use of physiotherapists. He led the team, rather than letting board members lead. He also utilized floodlighting and numbered shirts, entered European club competitions, and has received numerous posthumous honors in recognition. George Allison guided Arsenal to the 1936 FA Cup title and kept the club strong through World War II. 1934 to 1947. FA Cup wins, 1, 1936. Oversaw Arsenal during World War II and helped maintain their competitive edge. Having been a keen footballer in his youth, although he failed to make the grade as a professional, the best being a trial with Shildon, after his move to London in 1906, Allison soon became associated with Woolwich Arsenal. He became the club's programme editor and continued his association with the team after they moved to Highbury and renamed themselves Arsenal. He became a member of the club's board of directors soon after the end of the First World War. He was at first club secretary and then managing director. After the sudden death of legendary Arsenal boss Herbert Chapman earlier in January 1934, Allison was appointed Chapman's full-time successor in the summer of that year. Under Chapman and caretaker manager Joe Shaw, Arsenal had already won the league championship twice in a row, in 1932-33 and 1933-34, and Allison made it a hat-trick, winning a 3rd successive title in 1934-35. He also won the FA Cup in 1935-36 and the league again in 1937-38. 5. In 1938, Allison set a world transfer record when he bought Bryn Jones from Wolverhampton for £14,000. Allison famously appeared in a 1939 film set at Highbury, the Arsenal Stadium Mystery, where he had a speaking part as himself. Amongst his lines included one uttered at half-time, "It's 1-0 to the Arsenal. That's the way we like it," a line of which helped foster and create the club's famous 1-0 to the Arsenal chant. Allison took a hands-off approach to managing. Unlike his predecessor Chapman, Joe Shaw and Tom Whittaker took charge of training and squad discipline, while Allison concentrated on transfer policy and the club's relationship with the media. 3. Arsenal player Bernard Joy later recounted, he was tactful, friendly and good-hearted. But he fell short in his handling of footballers. Tom Whittaker, former physio-turned-manager, led Arsenal to the 1950 FA Cup win. 1947 to 1956. FA Cup wins, 1, 1950. Former club physio-turned-manager, led Arsenal to post-war success. Whittaker was born at East Cavalry Barracks, Aldershot, Hampshire, but grew up in Newcastle upon Tyne from the age of 3 weeks. He spent his early football career in the northeast of England as a youth player, whilst training as a marine engineer, later working in that role for Hawthorne Leslie & Co. of Tyneside. He was called up to the British Army, signing up for the Royal Garrison Artillery, in 1917, moving to LYDD in Kent, before later switching to the Royal Navy. He was demobilised in 1919. In the meantime, he had continued playing football for his regiment, and after serving his country in World War I, Whittaker forewent his engineering career and joined Leslie Knighton's Arsenal in November 1919. He first played as centre-forward, then as wing-half. He signed as a professional in January 1920 and made his debut in a 1-0 defeat away to West Bromwich Albion on the 6th of April, 1920, and became a regular in the side in the 1920s, playing 70 times for the club and scoring 2 goals. He toured Australia as part of the Football Association side in 1925, but during the tour, in a match in Wollongong he broke his kneecap and was forced to retire from playing. Resolving to carry on in football, he joined Arsenal's coaching staff and entered study as a physiotherapist. He became Arsenal's first team trainer under Herbert Chapman in 1927, whilst still younger than many of the players on the pitch. Whittaker had an important role under Chapman in reforming the training and physiotherapy regime at the club, and played an essential part in the club's successes of the 1930s. After Chapman's death in 1934, Whittaker continued to serve under his successor, George Allison, and also became a trainer for the England national team. The Second World War saw Whittaker work as an ARP warden, before becoming a pilot in the Royal Air Force, achieving the rank of squadron leader. For his service on missions on D-Day, he was awarded an MBE. With the end of the war, Whittaker resumed his role as trainer at Arsenal. After Allison's retirement in 1947, Whittaker became the club's new manager. Under him the club won the league in 1947-48 and 1952-53 and the FA Cup in 1949-53. Whittaker sought to attract Blackpool's Stanley Matthews, who was approached after the Tangerines' visit to Highbury in 1954. Since Matthews was already receiving football's maximum wage at Bloomfield Road, he felt there was nothing to be gained by moving south. Matthews, however, stated that he was very happy and politely turned down the offer. Such an approach was against the rules at the time and, consequently, I couldn't tell anyone about it, and I never have until now. Whittaker, while still at the helm of Arsenal, died of a heart attack at the University College Hospital, London in 1956, at the age of 58. Bertie Mee OBE, the 25th of December, 1918 to the 21st of October, 2001, was an English footballer and manager. After his playing career was cut short by injury, he later became a manager and led Arsenal to their first double win in 1971. Born in Highbury Vale, Nottingham, and the younger brother of fellow footballer Bertie Mee, he played for Derby County and Mansfield Town. In the 1940-41 season, Mee made 16 guest appearances for Southampton, scoring twice. After his playing career was cut short by injury, Mee joined the Royal Army Medical Corps where he trained as a physiotherapist and spent 6 years, rising to the rank of sergeant. After leaving, he worked for various football clubs as a physiotherapist before joining Arsenal in 1960, succeeding Billy Milne. After the sacking of Billy Wright in 1966, the club asked Mee to become manager, a highly surprising move, perhaps even to the man himself. Mee asked for a get-out clause for him to return to physiotherapist after 12 months if his tenure was unsuccessful. Mee recruited Dave Sexton and Don Howe as his assistants, in order to make up for any tactical shortcomings of his own. Arsenal had not won a trophy since 1953, but, under Mee, with a crop of players from Arsenal's youth system, such as Charlie George, John Radford, Pat Rice and Ray Kennedy, began to show promise. Arsenal reached 2 successive League Cup finals in 1968 and 1969 but lost them both to Leeds United and Swindon Town respectively. However, the following season, the club won its first European trophy and its first trophy of any kind for 17 years, beating Anderlecht to claim the Intercities Fairs Cup, 4-3 on aggregate. After being 3-0 down in the away leg, Arsenal grabbed a late consolation and then beat the Belgian side 3-0 at Highbury. The Fairs Cup was only the warm-up for the main act, namely the FA Cup and League double win in 1971. The league title was won at White Hart Lane, home of their rivals Tottenham Hotspur, on the 3rd of May, the last day of the season. 5 days later, Arsenal beat Liverpool 2-1 at Wembley after extra time, the winning goal scored by George. It was only the second time a team had won the double in the 20th century. Arsenal had ambitions to retain their title the following season and signed Alan Ball from Everton. However, their league campaign faltered and their hopes of a trophy depended on the FA Cup, where Arsenal had again reached the final, this time facing Leeds United. Arsenal lost by a single goal. Arsenal also participated in the European Cup, but was defeated in the quarter-finals by eventual winners Ajax. In the 1972-73 season, Arsenal managed a serious championship challenge, at one point topping the table, but eventually finished runners-up. A run in the FA Cup was brought to an end by a semi-final defeat to eventual winners Sunderland. Mee then began to break up the team which had won the double, and players such as Kennedy, George and captain Frank McLintock departed. Mee announced his resignation in 1976 as Arsenal's most successful manager in terms of victories with 241 wins, a number that would not be surpassed until 2006 by Arsene Wenger. Mee was succeeded by Terry Neill. In 1978, he joined Watford as assistant to Graham Taylor and in charge of scouting. He later became a director of the Hornets before retiring in 1991. In 2008, he was posthumously inducted into the National Football Museum's Hall of Fame. Mee was made an OBE in 1984 for services to football. Mee died on the 21st of October, 2001, survived by his wife Doris and 2 daughters, Allison and Beverly. Terry Neill, 1976-1983. FA Cup wins, 1, 1979. Famous for the dramatic 3-2 win over Manchester United, with a last-minute goal by Alan Sunderland. William John Terence Neill, the 8th of May, 1942 to the 28th of July, 2022, was a Northern Irish football player and manager. A centre-back, he captained and later managed Arsenal, guiding the club to a European final in 1980 and 3 consecutive FA Cup finals between 1978 and 1980, winning a dramatic final against Manchester United in 1979. Before his 7-year spell as manager of Arsenal, he managed Hull City, Tottenham Hotspur, and Northern Ireland. Born in Belfast, Neill played as a youth for Bangor, before moving in December 1959 to Arsenal. He spent a year in Arsenal's youth side before making his debut against Sheffield Wednesday on the 23rd of December, 1960, aged 18. At first, he played sporadically during the early 1960s, getting between 10 and 20 games a season through the first half of the decade, though on one occasion he became the youngest Arsenal captain in the club's history at 20 years of age. Playing either at centre-half or wing-half, Neill established himself in the side in 1964-65 with 29 league appearances, and as one of the younger members of Billy Wright's team, was kept by Wright's successor Bertie Mee when he took over in 1966. Neill became a first-choice player through the mid-60s, playing over 40 games a season for 3 consecutive seasons, and also playing in the 1968 Football League Cup final against Leeds United, which Arsenal lost. Neill played no part in Arsenal's European Fairs Cup 1969-70 final win, but he made 5 appearances earlier in the cup run. During this time, Neill had also become a regular for Northern Ireland, having made his debut as far back as 1961. He became captain of his country in 1968, but a bout of jaundice restricted his appearances for club and country in 1968-69 and he missed the 1969 Football League Cup final, which Arsenal lost to Swindon Town. Unable to regain his first-team place, Neill only made 25 appearances in 1969-70 and it became clear that he was surplus to requirements at Arsenal. In total he played 275 times for Arsenal, scoring 10 goals. Born in Belfast, Neill played as a youth for Bangor, before moving in December 1959 to Arsenal. He spent a year in Arsenal's youth side before making his debut against Sheffield Wednesday on the 23rd of December, 1960, aged 18. At first, he played sporadically during the early 1960s, getting between 10 and 20 games a season through the first half of the decade, though on one occasion he became the youngest Arsenal captain in the club's history at 20 years of age. Playing either at centre-half or wing-half, Neill established himself in the side in 1964-65 with 29 league appearances, and as one of the younger members of Billy Wright's team, was kept by Wright's successor Bertie Mee when he took over in 1966. Neill became a first-choice player through the mid-60s, playing over 40 games a season for 3 consecutive seasons, and also playing in the 1968 Football League Cup final against Leeds United, which Arsenal lost. Neill played no part in Arsenal's European Fairs Cup 1969-70 final win, but he made 5 appearances earlier in the cup run. During this time, Neill had also become a regular for Northern Ireland, having made his debut as far back as 1961. He became captain of his country in 1968, but a bout of jaundice restricted his appearances for club and country in 1968-69, and he missed the 1969 Football League Cup final, which Arsenal lost to Swindon Town. Unable to regain his first-team place, Neill only made 25 appearances in 1969-70, and it became clear that he was surplus to requirements at Arsenal. In total he played 275 times for Arsenal, scoring 10 goals. Neill guided Arsenal to the 1980 final of the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup. In the semi-final against Juventus, Arsenal drew 1-1 in the first leg at Highbury, and were expected to have a formidable task in the second leg in Turin. But a late goal 2 minutes from time by Arsenal's teenage substitute Paul Wiesen gave Arsenal a 1-0 away victory and a 2-1 aggregate win. It was the first time Juventus had lost to a British team on home soil. Of 9, in the final, Arsenal lost on penalties to Valencia in front of 40,000 people at Heysel Stadium. Arsenal's success in cup competitions could not be matched in the league. The retirement of Malcolm MacDonald at the premature age of 29 due to a knee injury, and the departures of stars such as Brady and Stapleton, hampered Arsenal's league title ambitions. Citation needed. In the 1980-81 season, Neill guided Arsenal to a third-place finish in the final table, the closest in 10 years that they had come to winning the league title. 11. In the 1981-82 season, Arsenal finished 5th in the league. Neill's 1982 summer signing of striker Lee Chapman from Stoke City for £500,000 was not a success. 13, with Chapman scoring just 4 goals in 23 appearances for Arsenal before being sold to Sunderland for £200,000. Citation needed. In the 1982-83 season, Arsenal reached the semi-finals of the FA Cup and the League Cup, but lost both semi-finals to Manchester United. Citation needed. In June 1983, Neill signed striker Charlie Nicholas from Celtic for £800,000. Liverpool and Manchester United had also been keen to buy Nicholas, who had scored an impressive total of 50 goals in all competitions for Celtic in the 1982-83 season. Nicholas reportedly became the highest-paid footballer in Britain after his move to Arsenal, and later became a cult figure at the club. After being given an improved 3-year contract at the start of the 1983-84 season, Neill was sacked by Arsenal on the 16th of December, 1983. The dismissal was a decision which club chairman Peter Hillwood had reportedly agonised over. Neill subsequently retired from football when only 41 years old. Neill opened sports bars in Hendon and Holborn. He also commentated on Arsenal matches for Arsenal TV. Citation needed. Neill headed up the business development department of The Hub, London, a total media management company in the city. Citation needed. Politically, he was a conservative. Neill died in July 2022, aged 80.
Thanks for tuning into FA Cup Files, where every cup run holds a tale, and we're here to tell them all. From first whistles to last-minute winners, FA Cup Files will be here, uncovering football's finest. Subscribe and stay with us on FA Cup Files, where the magic never fades, and the legends live on.